is such an honor to have you both here. And what I'm going to do first is I want you to tell these amazing people a little bit about what you do. So I'm going to start with you.
Okay, my name is Amal Hassan. I'm the founder and CEO of Outsource Global. Outsource is a business process outsourcing company stroke contact center in Nigeria. So we provide different services for companies in UK, US, and Japan. We have people that are lawyers that work out of Nigeria to actually serve the US market. So they solve actual US cases out of Nigeria. We do customer service, we do telemarketing, we do IT support services. So basically, in a nutshell, that's what we do.
So let me do a quick follow-on question just to make sure people actually understand. You know, sometimes when you call, if you're living in England and you call British Telecoms, that's BT, you know that the person on the other end of the line isn't British. You can hear, you know, a considerable kind of, sometimes it's an Indian accent, I think, Asian accent. Are you saying that your company provides similar services?
Yes, that's basically one of the things we offer. So companies in the international market outsource a segment of their business to countries that are less developed where labor is very cheap. So India has been has been providing outsourcing services to the world since 1980, and we looked at it, we said, why not Nigeria? We have very good English-speaking people. We have very good educated workforce, and we said, why not? And we established that in Nigeria.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to come over to you, Miss Mo.
Yay. Okay, if I can get this mic round. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Mo Abudu. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Ebony Life Media, which does many things. We launched Ebony Life in 2013. We started with Ebony Life Television, that you can watch on the DSTV platform and now also the StarTimes platform. A year later, we launched Ebony Life Films. We've made Nigeria's largest films to date globally, to include 50, the Wedding Party series, franchises, you know, Chief Daddy. And coming this Christmas is Your Excellency, and we're off to Tunisia next week in one of the largest film festival in Africa with Olutore, which is, you know, probably one of our most heart-wrenching films so far. It's about human trafficking. We also have Ebony Life On, so if you want to watch Ebony Life on the go, you can subscribe for as little as 500 Naira a month. There's Ebony Life Place, which will open this December in Victoria Island. It's Nigeria's first luxury lifestyle and entertainment boutique resort. We have 5 luxury screens. We have fine dining. We have a rooftop restaurant, a poolside restaurant, a hotel, and all of that's in there. So Ebony Life, really, for us, you know, our key vision is to change the narrative. And you can only do that by creating anchors and projects and activations that tell that story. So for us, it's telling the story with film, with television, and with real-life experiences like you will find at Ebony Life Place. Absolutely. So that's kind of what we do in a nutshell.
It's kind of like the entertainment ecosystem you're plugging in at different
various levels, absolutely.
I should probably ask you this just before we go into, you know, the core, the nuggets that this panel is supposed to be about. But you talk about changing the narrative. And this is something that's become quite fashionable.
Very.
In Africa, you're always hearing about people changing the narrative. What's what you're doing bringing to the table in terms of achieving that goal?
Well, for me, this changing the narrative actually started in 2006 when I decided that I wanted to launch Moments with Mo. And the essence, I mean, I remember going into MultiChoice at the time and having a conversation with, you know, the managing director at the time, and I said, I want to do this talk show. Now, I had no experience in television at the time or media. I'm totally self-taught. And the very first thing they said to me was, but, you know, we have the Oprah Winfrey Show, we have the Ellen DeGeneres Show, and at the time they had the Tyra Banks Show. And I said, great, I love all of these shows, and I watch them. But really and truly, how does that tell my story? How does that showcase my continent? I watch them for purely entertainment. But therefore, for us, launching Moments with Mo at the time was a show that was focusing on telling our stories. Something as simple as I want to lose weight. And I kept using the example of, if I'm watching an Oprah Winfrey show, she's probably going to tell me that, go on a diet and eat artichokes or whatever it is, or asparagus, which I can't find in Lagos, Nigeria. So if I want to lose weight in Lagos today, what are the things that I need to do to be able to do that? What is the ecosystem that's supporting you to help you lose weight in this country? Again, we have episodes. Oprah's done 1 million episodes on domestic violence. But am I going to call 111 or 999 in New York to come and help me if my husband's beating me to death? I don't think so. I need to know someone locally that I can reach out to that can help me deal with my pain. If I want to adopt a child, I need to find someone locally that is dealing with that. So for me, it was about changing the narrative and being able to tell our stories locally. Again, it was about showcasing the best of the continent in terms of, a lot of the music stars that we know today that are, have, as they say, they have blown. A lot of them started off by coming on Moments with Mo in those days. We didn't have Instagram or anything then, but somehow, it's really, I love looking back and seeing a lot of them now that are totally have all these millions of followers who 10 years ago, literally, they were just starting out. So even our music industry is not that old. No. It's not. So for me, changing the narrative started with the talk show, and then I got so inspired and passionate about that I said there had to be more than a talk show. And then I developed a couple of other TV shows. One was The Debaters, the other was Niger Diamonds, and then after that it was like, you know what, we need to do more. Then came the idea to start the network, and then the films, and then everything else has followed.
Thank you for that. I'm going to ask you the same question. Is any of this for you, the journey that you've been on, is any of it about changing the narrative?
Yes, of course. Yeah, of course. I'm going to say the story from the beginning, right? I started my first career with an IT training center in Kano. I'm from Kano, northern Nigeria. I was born and brought up in Kano, so you can imagine how I was brought up. So by 2000, it started in 2003. By 2005, we've trained a lot of IT professionals, and we realized that we are not changing their lives. So we train them in MCSE, Oracle, CompTIA, Linux, and still they come out of our center without jobs. So I started researching on what I could do to create employment for those people in Nigeria. I looked at BPO because at the time, my center was an NIT franchise. So I looked at India and I saw BPO and I started researching, okay, what do they do? What are the parameters? So when I looked at everything that is required to actually service the US market and the UK, and I saw that we have everything and even better. So then I went ahead and I said, okay, so if I have to compete with India, I have to be better than India. So what do I need to do that? So I did a lot of research in terms of the technology, the switching arrangement, the processes that we're putting in place. Well, of course, you know the story. It took me 8 years to start Outsource. I started it 4 times because I insisted that we have to do it better than India. And for me to do that, I have to put the right infrastructure. I have to put the right processes. I have to put the right people. And yes, it took me 8 years. I started it 4 times and failed. I went live June 2016. And even after going live with a domestic client, I couldn't find an American client. So I packed my bag one day. I went to America and I started telling people how we set up the center according to international standard, how we have best of that, best of this. And one of them got up in one of the programs that I attended and said, why don't you come with me to San Francisco? I can arrange a lot of meetings for you and it's up to you to sell. So I met about 15 people, all of them telling me the same thing. Nigeria is not a well-known outsourcing destination. You are inexperienced. Nigeria is not experienced in BPO. Why should we move our operations to you? All of them literally were saying the same thing until I met the 15, I got connected to the 15th person, and I felt at that point that I cannot go back to Nigeria without a client. So I told him, give me 5 customer service seats. I will take care of connectivity, everything. I will give you 3 months free of charge. If you don't like it, you walk away. So I gave him an offer he couldn't resist, and he said, fine, okay, I have nothing to lose. So I came back to Nigeria. I found people with American accents.
We have them.
So, and we went live, yes, that June 2016, and today that client has 300 people with me. So, and from that client, he recommended other clients, and we kept on moving, and today we are 850 employees. So we went from telemarketing, customer service, to legal services, to accounting services, to IT support services, to medical records. We are now 3 centers in 3 years, and serving 3 different locations, US, UK, and Japan. So basically, we have made Nigeria an outsourcing destination. So Nigeria is on the map when I went live, as an outsourcing. All our agents are proving that a lot of, all the companies that we are serving are actually moving operations from India and Philippines to us. One, they like the accent, they like the IT support services, and we're doing it cheaper. So, so we have changed the narrative. The whole point was to create employment, and then I went into so much more than that. Yeah, thank you.
That's pretty phenomenal. And what's interesting for me, one of the things that's really interesting, and one of the reasons why I really wanted you to come here, is that even in the South, people often have a certain conception, they have this idea, this notion in their head or in their heads of what a northern Nigerian woman is like. And I really wanted them to meet you because, okay, I'm gonna ask you both a question now. And, right, what quality do you think you have that might have made this journey possible or easier for you? I actually want to know, do you think that being a woman has meant that there's certain things you're able to do that perhaps if it was a man who was in your place, the man wouldn't have been able to achieve what you've achieved? I really want to know your opinion. Has being a woman been an advantage?
It is. I'm going to let you answer this question first.
Well, speaking from experience, and I will speak from a point of view of how I have run Ebony Life. And I think sometimes, and I say this to a lot of young people, I turned 55 this year. I have a 30-year-old daughter and a 23-year-old son. I continue to learn a lot from them, from their generation, but I've also learned from my mom and from my generation. So therefore, one of the major things I decided, and this is in all the companies that I have set up, is that a lot of our workforce is mainly women. Because unfortunately, and I have to say this to our men, and I say this to my son, and he is taking it seriously, we have too many men in our society that are very idealistic about things. They dream a lot about things, and it's good to dream, but really it's about taking that dream and doing. And I often find that our women are doers. Our women multitask. Our women are more passionate about the things that they do, and they put their heart and soul into it. And that's one key lesson I have learned even with setting up Ebony Life. And even prior to that, Vic Lawrence and Associates, which is also an outsourcing business, but not focusing on the areas that you focus on. Again, I have a woman that runs that today. But looking at Ebony Life, our head of legal, head of human resources, head of strategy, head of programming. They're all female. Now, yes, I did make a conscious effort to employ more women because we are underrepresented. But nonetheless, I also took that decision because I know that when it's time to do, in my experience, I have found that women tend to be doers.
Do you think that has something to do with the way our men are brought up or the way our boys are raised? Because if you go to the simplest place to go with this conversation is something that happens on Twitter a lot when they're talking about should women cook for their husbands, blah, blah, blah. And some people will tell you that, you know, as a son, I never entered the kitchen. My mother cooked, my sisters cook, therefore I refuse to marry a woman who can't cook, as if that's the job she came to do in life. But
we know your opinion.
you know, no, but the point
I hear
I'm
you,
making is it something, I mean, what's going on in our society if our men...
Yes, but I think our women and our mothers and aunts and uncles and sisters do have a responsibility to make sure that our men respect our women. But that's not to say, I mean, I'm divorced, but I was married. And the thing is that women are able to multitask. Because even as a married woman, I would work. I would look after my children. I would still find time to go home and cook. Or sometimes I would do it remotely by having the support system to ensure that I can do it. Society has thrust upon women these responsibilities. And we are still able to do them. But you are a man. Eh? And you are not given these responsibilities, and you are spending all day dreaming. I have a problem with that. So, please, for the men, you know, do a bit more. Please support us, but also do a little bit more than dreaming. But we women, I've noticed that we do a lot more, you know, and...
You know where this is all going, don't you? Because
Where?
me, I've told people that, no, I'm not even joking about this. In the next 20, 30 years, this entire continent is going to be run by women.
It's
I'm
looking
just-
like that.
There's nothing I'm more certain of.
Yeah.
Because when you look around and you look at businesses, you see, they won't let us do governance. Because if we had a female governor, I have a feeling that things would be run differently, but I still want you to answer this question as well.
Okay, so let me start by answering the way she answered, because you always take lead from the master, right? so I'm also married. I have 4 kids. Okay. So I married at a very young age, like any northerner. At the age of 19. So I had my first child in university, my first year in university. She's actually, okay, I can't say her age because you will guess how old I am now. So
We want to know.
So she's in her final year. I always tell people one of the qualities that I think we women have in Nigeria is perseverance. And one of the qualities that I know I'm not that intelligent or I'm not different from any other person in Nigeria is just that I'm able to persevere. I have seen a dream and I'm trying to actualize that dream. And I would not stop until it is actually done. So what I did is I rely 100% on God and I put all my energy towards achieving that dream, knowing that He is the only person that can make it happen, right? So one of the things that I know we have, and I've seen it in our employees, is that perseverance. Because when it comes to business, you have to be able to persevere. So when you look at all the failed companies in Nigeria, because I think, I don't want to be, I think men do not have that kind of perseverance, right? So you have to be able to persevere. So what we've done in Outsource is of course, we did the same way as Mo did in her company. We actually focus on, yes, bringing in the women, and we put a different structure of actually bringing people in and actually promoting them. So the normal traditional structure is the person that can speak more and the person that looks like he's going to do the work more gets promoted or get put in a certain role. So what we've done is we created 4 core values: honesty and integrity, insisting on higher standard, constantly improving, and sorry, I missed one, right? Honesty and integrity, insisting on higher standard, making an impact, and constantly improving. So these 4 core values are what we use to bring people in. For you to actually work with us, you have to have that. So from the interview, you'll find out that based on these 4 core values, we bring more women in. And then when it's time for promotion, how you demonstrate these 4 core values is how we promote you. So one day I just woke up, outsource is 50% women, and most of the management roles are filled by women based on this 4 principles. So one of the best qualities we have really is we're able to manage because we're born mothers, right? We're able, like you said, to multitask. I have 4 kids. I've never worked anywhere. I started with my first business, which is an IT training center. I was taking my kids there and juggling and taking care of my husband the way a northern Nigerian woman is supposed to do. And I still made it because I'm able to multitask. I'm able to put things in boxes and say, okay, so this is work, this is house. So this goes to house and this goes to work, and somehow it meets somewhere, you know. So, and that's what we've done. And I encourage women in our centers to actually get married, have children, and then I don't allow them to give excuses based on that. That is not an excuse. That is not a disease to have a husband and children. It is actually an additional skill that you bring into the job. So that's the kind of perception that we try to change when we're bringing. So it's in outsource, you really encourage for you to have children. I always ask them, when are you going to get married? Because I really want them to learn from me and the other people that are there that, you know, getting married and juggling with children, it's actually doesn't limit you. It actually aids you into being able to be this successful working woman. I don't know if I'm making sense. So.
You're making sense, but I want to ask you, you've also raised a lot of questions. The first thing that I would say is, for me, the word perseverance is not one that I actually like. I think what you are saying is determination. I think that better describes it, because when we talk about perseverance, we're talking about accepting that you are in a situation where you are suffering and deciding, I'm going to stay with this suffering. Whereas I don't think that's what you're even doing.
But Lola, could it not be tenacity? She's tenacious.
Tenacious. There are lots of words I think that we should use, but that perseverance, I don't know.
So maybe maybe perseverance is not the word. You know, English is not my strong skills. I'm from
Your
Kano,
English is lovely. Did you ever try to do that telemarketing? Because you know there's no shortage of people with American accents in Nigeria.
No, there is no shortage.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, Lola, I remember interviewing a chap once who came for an audition, and he had this American accent, and I just said to him, "Oh, were you born in America?" He says, "No, I watch MTV." I was like, "Okay."
Exactly. One of my favorite agents, he speaks with the Texan drawl, you know. He speaks like a Texan. And the first time I interviewed him, he was speaking with an accent. And I said, well, those are the first employees that we got into outsource. And I told him, we can't really employ you because I needed to prove that we're better than India and the accent is what I need. So he said, fine, give me 3 months and I will come back. So 2 months later, he sent me a text message and said, Mom, I'm ready. So he came,
And he was speaking with the Texan draw, and I was like, what happened? He said, I was watching Walker, Texas Ranger all this while. And I came back, and he's actually very good. He got promoted, he spoke really well. And later on, he was pushed into our legal services, because when you spend, some of them come in as customer service, and then they get pushed to other professional services, and he's now a lawyer working with the US market. So yeah, we don't have shortage of. Nigerians, when they need a job, they can do anything. Honestly. I have seen it. The moment I say this is not working, they will just tell me, give me time. It will work.
It's the thing that, when people describe us all over the world and they say Nigerians are this, Nigerians are that, they're just so adaptable, And again, it's that same determination. But there's another thing that I want to ask both of you, because you said something earlier about how sometimes you ask women, when are they going to get married, or when are they going to have kids? And I can understand that, because it's actually coming from culture. It's the culture that you're kind of comfortable with. But I wanted to ask them that in a situation where one of your employees doesn't want to get married or have children, or doesn't consider it to be a priority, how do you deal with that situation?
Well, most of the time, why I ask this question all the time, I wanted them to feel that it's okay. So you're in a leading role doesn't mean that you should think twice about getting married because you don't want to lose that role. So I ask all the time to make sure that they know that it's okay by me if they pursue that. But of course, if they don't want to, it's all fine and good. But what I want them to do is be able to look at that, if that is what they want to do, and feel comfortable doing it. But of course, if they don't want to do, then it's fine and good. So
okay, so it's just a question of, reinforcing that their jobs are secure,
yes, exactly.
So that they don't feel, because they say that there's some employers in Nigeria that when you get married, if you are pregnant, you have to be wearing a girdle for about 6 months, so that, because once you're pregnant, then they don't want to have you anymore. So the question I want to ask, I'm going to kind of ask it in a different way, is how much does, what kind of role does what we understand as our culture, what role does that play in your leadership style? Because you're both CEOs. I'm the only person on this stage that's not a CEO.
Yeah, I thought you were.
I feel slightly intimidated. The CEO sandwich.
Don't mind Lola. I think one thing that I preach is that we must be culturally aware at all times. We can't ignore our culture or the cultures of other societies that we go into. It's important to respect them. But I think what is important is to create your own within that. So as much as I know I live in a society that is still mainly, there is a place for women, so to speak. I'm aware of that. But I still find a way within all of that to do the things that I need to do. So if, for example, now I need to go down on both my knees to beg somebody for something because it's going to get my job done, Lola, I'll do it too. Do you understand? So people have even called me actress. At times I will even cry to get what I want. So it really depends on the situation. The most important thing for me is never take my eye off what it is that I want to achieve. Yes, there are certain things that some women in our society have said we have done to achieve certain things. I won't go into that, but I won't do that.
No, I think we should go into it, because that was my next question. How do you, do you say
The thing is that you get approached. I mean, we live in a society whereby, people will try all sorts of things with you. They will try. But I think
not at your level.
Not at my age or my level.
People are still trying all sorts of things with you.
Sometimes they're even younger than I am.
That's not a bad thing.
So you kind of take those things in your stride. And it's very important for women to be firm and to be strong and to stand your ground and to communicate eye to eye with that person and to let them know that, unfortunately, can we go back to the reason why I'm here?
Yeah, what do you say to people who say, Moabudu is Moabudu because she slept her way to her position?
Do you know what I say?
People say it's all about women.
Let me say that people that say that, sometimes other women say that. Yes. And other women say that, unfortunately, because that is the only thing they know how to do. People can only judge you by their own standards, So when a woman wakes up and says, I slept my way there, she can't imagine. This project in VI that we've done, from the beginning, it's taking us 2 years. My PA is there. She knows the sleepless nights we've had. She knows we were sleeping in a house to get the approval, to break ground, to raise the money. We know what we went through. So instead of you asking me, maybe, how did I do it? If you think I slept my way into a project that is millions of dollars, well, I must be really good.
So I'm gonna. I love that. That takes some skill.
Some skill.
I mean, what's have you ever encountered that? Because people say it quite a bit, like in the South. Do people say that about successful women who are in leadership roles in northern Nigeria?
Oh, well, there are very few,
Women in leadership roles in northern Nigeria.
In business in northern Nigeria. But what I do know is it's very hard for you to find somebody to take you seriously, right? And yes, whenever you're successful, people put you in that bracket that this is what she did. She must have done this or that, right? Well, because for me, my market is not here in Nigeria, I was able to be quiet under the radar for a long time before recently US government started promoting me, and then people got to even know about what we're doing. So I was able to get shielded because of that. But I'm very sure if I'm a player in this market, that would definitely be the same situation. Somebody is definitely going to say that. I'm very sure some of them are saying that already. So you never know. But I thought initially that the problem of men taking you seriously, of people taking you seriously, when you're trying to tell them about a business idea or what you're doing, is the matter of the North. Then I later found out when I met the owner of Main One that it's everywhere, So we have to work twice or 100 times
7
harder
times.
to be able to prove ourselves. So it takes, it takes me to employ like 350 people before I was taken seriously. So even now with 850, somebody would ask me, did you school abroad? No. I went for a meeting with one of my our Canadian colleagues, and somebody gave him a seat and said, it's only for the bosses. And so I sat down on the one seat they provided for the meeting, and somebody came to whisper, this is for your boss. And I whispered back, I am the boss. So yes, you encounter that. Sometimes you allow it to get to you, and sometimes it affects you because I'm still 3 years old, right, in the business. But I always have to remind myself when I'm going there, you are who you are. You have done all those things. So it doesn't matter how they look at you.
So I have to mostly ignore certain comments, just because I have to always remind myself. So I have to learn from you, and I've watched your show from the beginning to the end. It's what you're doing. I have to say this, it's amazing, because whenever I look at you and I look at what you're doing, I always tell myself, I have to have this confidence. I have to do this. I have to, so you have no idea how you're reaching a lot of people like me,
thank you,
in the
Amma.
north, so I keep on saying, okay, if she can do it, you're visible, so if she can do it, then I can also.
Thank you so much for your kind words.
Isn't that amazing?
Oh, it's amazing.
You see the kind of impact you've had.
But Lola, that's the thing. That's why there is an ecosystem of women now that are connecting, that are successful, because they know, what it takes. You know what it takes. So there are women out there that know. And together, there are support groups now. And that we need to do more of that. The people that are doing the talking are actually the people that don't have much to do. So they have a lot of time to talk.
We're busy working.
We're busy working, so we don't have that much time. So that's the difference. And people do respect what we do. I mean, it's not the majority of people that are saying these things, but it's just that we're talking about some of these realities in our culture. But a lot of women are supporting each other today, and I get a lot of support from other women saying, whatever I can do to support you, to help you, advise this, introduce you to people. I mean, a lot of that happens as well. So we have to, so we're going to have to connect, Amal. We're going to have to connect.
That's it. It's really important, because for me, like you were saying, I work with a whole load of young women as well. And me, I just love it, because they're generally up for work. They're just kind of ready. My guys are good as well, but the girls, there's just a certain energy that one can also feed off. Do you get that sense, especially with younger women? And then do you feel some sort of responsibility, as in you have to behave in a certain way because you want to set a really good example for them? Do you feel like a role model?
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things I stand for, right? I feel that how we behave and how we succeed and how we carry ourselves and how we take certain decisions also impact on the young women coming up. And what we've noticed is actually different now. A lot of young women are coming up. A lot of young entrepreneurs are coming up. They need a lot of mentorship. Of course, you're very visible, so you're able to impact in a lot. For me, in northern Nigeria, there aren't people like me. So I know that within the 8 years that I was trying to establish Outsource, the things that I have faced, the kind of investors I've gotten, the way I was pushed out of my business and things like that. So whenever I see them, I always try to bring them closer to me, because I know exactly what they're going through. And I'm able to tell them, okay, this is this, these are the mistakes that I've made. You can't afford to make these mistakes, because 3 years down the line, it's coming to hurt you. Then don't care what people say. Just as long as you know you can remain conservative. I am very conservative. I'm very religious. You can have it all, don't be afraid to come out, because sometimes a lot of ladies in northern Nigeria cannot, whenever they come out to be entrepreneurs, then they leave what they believe in just to make sure that they succeed. They feel that that's a shortcoming. So I always encourage them, you can be who you are. Whoever you choose to be, you can be that and still achieve whatever you want to achieve. All you need to do is believe that you can have it all, but it all starts from your heart, where you where you put it. So
That's like
absolutely,
reminding people to be true to themselves. Don't kind of try change your behavior because you're trying to fit into a certain, box or mold. I mean, do you see yourself as a role model? Don't worry, people. Don't worry. I'm coming to you now. Let me enjoy them.
Well, I do, and I think it's a two-sided coin, because I send emails at 4 a.m. in the morning, 5 a.m. in the morning, and a lot of my staff are probably, maybe they're just about to get out of bed at that time. But it's just to say that some of them do respond. They know that, okay, I'm a bit of a workaholic. Some of them call me slave driver. They call me all kinds of names, which is fine. But the most important thing is that I'm very clear about the things that I need to achieve. I have a great team that I work with, and they know that I do. I'm not the kind of CEO that sits back and says, oh, you guys do the work while I sit. No. So they know I do. So because they know I do, they too know they have to do now.
They have to do.
I can't be doing and you're sitting around.
No,
So
you the guy, you are working.
I'm working.
But I do the same thing with my staff. I send them messages on WhatsApp at 3
At 3
a.m.
a.m.
But they
So
just
when you wake
ignore
up,
me.
you will see it.
They don't even answer. It's like, I imagine, because, they have their own group, their own messaging WhatsApp group outside the one I'm part of.
So I'm sure there.
They say, see this
woman,
woman, who is she talking
does she
to
think
at
I don't
3
have a
a.m.?
life?
She thinks I don't have a life. If she wants, let her be turning on her own.
Abil.
All right, so we're going to open it up and see, does anybody have a question? Let's see. Okay, we're going to take this lady here. And then we'll come to you, Nemisiri. And then we'll come to you. Okay, let's just take those three. Where's the mic? Prince. If it was a woman, princess, doing this job now, we won't be in this situation. Eh? Maybe if
Poor
I
guy.
start calling him princess, he will work better. Princess! Bring the mic. Okay, could you come and use mine, please?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Sin. I run Sin City NG. My question is to Mo. I've heard a lot of things about Mo. Basically, she said something. She said slave driver. And I noticed that those who work with me too, they call me slave driver. And when they call us slave drivers, it's basically because we are putting all our energy, working, and they call us all different. People, they call me dragon, they call me. So how do you manage that? Do you kick them out? Do you cuddle them? How do you manage that when you're a woman that has a strong personality and people can't see that you are putting your best to that? So how do you manage that?
I think over the years, I've learned to be many things, and maybe I have a split personality, because one minute I'm screaming and the next minute I'm going to, say, oh, So what is important is that at that point of, we got to get it done. So I think it's just having the ability to be many things. You're going to have to learn to love your stuff. I mean, for me, we'll go out together, we'll have lunch, we'll have dinner, we'll chat, we'll do all the stuff that we do as a family and as friends. And then there's going to be the fact that we need to also get the work done. So I think it's about people understanding you and being able to read you and knowing that you are, I think sincerity more than anything is important. They need to know that you're sincere. They need to know that you really, really want this thing to succeed. So as often as you can, like if you've just had a screaming match with a member of your staff, I suggest soon after, call them in and I'm sorry. Never be too proud to say sorry. I'm sorry, but this is really important to us. We need to get this done. And share your pain with your staff. It's really important for them to know that if you're feeling pain or if things are challenging or whatever the situation is, you have to carry them along. You still have to appear strong. Let them know you're in charge, that listen, I'm going to solve this problem, but please, this is where we are. Let's just find a way to make it work. So it's about you being their friend, their sister, their mother. Some of them call me mama, fine, So it's about you being everything that you can be to the people that you work with, because you spend more time with them than even your family at home, really. So
I agree with you, but I think she's also asking about the other side. So you're saying you get to know your staff, if you expect them to understand you, right, then as a boss, you also kind of have a responsibility to understand them.
absolutely.
And if they are not able to give you what you need to succeed in your job, do they really have any business being,
Of course not.
working for you?
Of course not. I mean, at that point, I think the Pareto principle will always operate in that 20% of the people are going to do 80% of the work at any given time, no matter what situation you're in. And there are some people that are just warming the chairs and doing the minimum amount of work they need to do, and you have those that are really pushing forward. But I think if it's at a point of whereby they're not contributing, I mean, I have a head of HR. It doesn't take long. Oh, yeah. Give them a nice warning letter, 1, 2, 3. After 3, be on your bike.
Bye-bye. What about you?
No, the same thing. What I've discovered is when she was talking, she said, we manage like the way mothers manage their children. So you scold when it's time to scold, you love when it's time to love. But then at the end of the day, it's all about what are you there for? And then that has to be achieved, right? So for us, what we've done is we put it in data, in data form. So delivery is being monitored month on month. So we have scorecards, right? So you have to have the highest rating to actually exist. That constantly improve is not just delivering the work, it's constantly improving on it, because we're trying to beat every market. As the other markets are reacting to competition, we are also reacting to competition. So we have to keep on raising the bar. So, and for us to raise the bar, we have to put like a scorecard. So you have to have a report sheet at the end of the month. At the end of 3 months, if your report sheet is looking, you yourself know that you don't have to get a letter from HR. You just have to pack your bag and go. So that's the model that we put in place.
Because you know what? I think the other thing is that when you're a female boss, you are also slightly nervous about being firm, because people expect you to have that maternal, oh, okay, I understand your issues. But there are times when I don't even want to understand any issues. Yes. That's the situation, because I just want results. So sometimes when you're a female, when you're a boss, but you're female, there's that added burden of being nice.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. Of being forgiving. Then, do you understand? You don't think you...
I don't suffer that.
You don't. That's why I want to be like you when I grow up. Next question, please.
All right, so I realized that when men are asked questions about their business, they don't say despite the fact that they have a family. They don't say that in spite the fact that they have a family, they are still able to like work and do stuff. But I realized that when you were saying, you were talking, you talked about your family, that you were able to multitask. So I like to see marriage as a kind of partnership. So in what ways is your husband helping so that having a family isn't so much of a burden that it keeps you from actually putting out as much as you would if you had no family?
Okay, the question is to me. I actually am very lucky to have a very good supportive husband. I wouldn't even continue my education if not because of him, because I got married at a very young age, and then I went into university and I was given the course that I wanted to study medicine, and I was given business admin. So I wasn't interested in what I was actually learning, and he kept on forcing me to learn. And even when, after I finished university, and I was trying to find my way around, he kept on asking me, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do with your life? So it got me thinking. I did basic computer skills, and here I am. So I'm able to actually achieve this because I'm coming from the north, so it's actually different from most. I'm able to do that because he is really supportive. He keeps on pushing me. When I fail, he encourages me to get up and keep on trying. So I've never thought of giving up, really, because all the time when I fail, myself and him sit down and find the reason why and try to do it together. So I'm able to achieve that. And one of the reasons why when a woman gets up and say, because I have a family, is because we want to be good role models to other women, to say you can actually have that and do whatever it is that you want to do. So it's that is the reason why we always get up and say we've achieved this despite the fact that we have families. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why men don't talk about it is because they don't really raise the family. So what are they going to say? I mean, they literally go to work. Some provide for their families financially. And I'm not saying they're not supportive. You know, my ex-husband is a fantastic father. He loves his kids, wonderful. But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, the person that's really thrust with the responsibility, if anyone is going to call, if they're going to call from school to say, oh, there's something wrong with it, most of the time they're going to call the mother. You know, you're the one that's going to drop off your children at school or pick them up or make the necessary arrangements. So the reason why women talk about it is because they are responsible for it. And the men don't talk about it because they're not really responsible for the execution on a day-to-day basis of making sure there's, you know, the food is cooked, or the kids have a packed lunch, or the kids have a uniform, or they've got pocket money, or do they have their pocket money, or have they done their homework, you know, and have they employed the right nanny? I mean, men don't do all that, do they? Men?
No, they don't.
But we have to, I guess, get to the point where when we talk about our work, we constantly kind of reference family life and additional responsibilities. I mean, when I hear that, it just makes me think, goodness me, the stuff women have to juggle, you know, it's huge. And it just makes me think, you know, it makes me think of the word perseverance.
I'm sorry.
You know what I mean? Because you're just in that situation thinking, Lord.
And then also the kids know that they come to you. It doesn't matter how busy I am. My kids know how to disturb me.
Yeah.
You know, and you just take it as part of your responsibility that it's okay. You find time for them.
Should it change? Should it be different?
I wouldn't want it to be.
And do you think it could be different?
You know, there's a thing about being pregnant and having a child that a man can never understand.
But you realize what you are saying is that a man doesn't have, you can't trust a man. That's what you're saying.
I don't know. I'm just saying, Lola, that you're asking me what do I think, and I'm
No,
telling you
because
that I'm
we're
the one
saying
that's
they're
pregnant
useless.
now. I'm the one that had the child. I'm the one that breastfed the child. So I'm going to definitely feel a more sense of nurturing and responsibility to the child, because the child literally came out of my womb. I'm sorry to say, but that's what happened. And even when the child is not even yours, even some of my friends and their children, I'm just as close to them. So even if you adopt a child, somehow there is just still that mothering thing that God has given us, that, Lola, and we can't do away with it. It is part of who we are.
I still feel that it's an inherited, I still think it's almost genetic, born of the fact that for thousands of years, women have been nervous about leaving their children in the hands of men.
Yes. Not hands
know
of
what I
men,
mean?
but generally, when I first took my daughter to the childminder in England, because before we came back, she was 3. And the first day that I dropped her off, I was like, oh my God, this is a stranger in a way. Okay, you've done all the checks and everything. But what do? You have to, at some point, get on with your life. You come back to Nigeria, same thing. You know, you have to employ staff to support you while you go out and work. Yeah. What do you do? Okay. Accepted? No.
Accepted.
But we can agree. Well, I mean, do you agree?
I totally agree with her. I don't want things to change. I think the natural way of life is that mothers are mothers. And we have to continue being mothers. Of course, we want things to change in the sense that we want men to be more responsible and help us more, you know. But I don't think any woman will want things to change.
Lola sitting here, you should see
I
her
want things to
you should
change.
see her with her kids. Oh. You should see Lola with her kids. Don't mind her.
No, I'm just saying I'm persevering.
Yes, we all are. We're all persevering.
That's all I'm saying.
We're all persevering.
I'm saying, no, do you understand? Of course I love my kids, and I'm serious about the fact that a lot of the reason why I do what I do is I really cannot trust their father with them. It's
because
just
he's a
the
man.
truth. Because I feel that he's slightly limited because he's a man.
Yeah, they are limited. They may not be able to cook. I mean, My
Just
husband,
cooking.
ex-husband says he can cook, but maybe like corned beef stew or something. But
See, they're limited.
so they're limited.
Can't even
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sweet and sour gbegiri or
No,
anything like
mine
that.
does not even he doesn't even know the way to the kitchen.
Uh-huh.
He can't
So we
even
have
cook.
varying degrees of they can't cook. So the kids are going to starve to death, aren't they?
Well, there's always Chicken Republic.
They're
All right, somebody else had a question. How are we doing for time, by the way? Time. Somebody else. There was another lady. Oh, okay. Oh, there you
yes.
go. Thank you.
My question is pertaining to the topic of the discussion, which is the changing shape of corporate Africa. So, as an entrepreneur or as a businesswoman, where do you think the balance lies? You know, there's a lot of conversation around, oh, you ought to do this, or you need to juggle all of that, the family life, and having a job, having people that work with you and all of that. But then as a woman, as much as there is the maternal side of things, there's also the tendency of women in this corporate world to, I don't want to say slave masters, but to draw it and stretch it to like a very thin level. So if we are emerging and getting better, the question now is, how do we draw the line to say you're demanding too much and you're expecting way more than should be delivered at that time?
I don't understand the question.
well, from what she said, the bit that I understand is that you're saying that maybe female CEOs are demanding too much of their staff.
is that
yes.
what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
More than
Not
male
more,
CEOs?
no, not comparing, but I'm saying focusing on the
On the
female
other, on the
the
other
female
responsibilities that females have.
Yes.
Okay.
Are we now saying that in the corporate world, there's a certain expectation that regardless of what it is, whatever is required, you need to deliver? My question now is, where do we draw the line and say, okay, you're stretching it too thin?
Basically, how do females in
Okay, so-
leadership roles cope with the pressure?
How do
No, what she's saying is, how do female CEOs cope with the pressure of their female staff
Yes.
that may be slightly, maybe they're pregnant or they're having issues or they
Or
have a child at home or
things
whatever.
like that? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any cut and paste solution. I think you take each situation for what it is. You know, I mean, I haven't employed any member of staff during pregnancy, for example. Maybe they've joined us before they were pregnant, which means that they've always worked pretty hard and well. So if they're now pregnant and they have to take days off or they have to attend to their child because they've had the child, you have to give them the flexibility to be able to do those things. I think I always have, and I think I always will. There's no way that you won't be limited, but if it becomes a continual thing, I do have some staff, and I said, listen, do you want to work part-time? Maybe part-time will solve the issue. Because as a female boss, I am conscious of the fact that there can be issues to be dealt with, and I can't expect you to do something that you are not capable of doing. No, I think that's unreasonable.
Does that answer your question? Okay. Can we come to this lady, and then I'm going to go to the back. We've got about 8 minutes. Very quickly, please.
Hi, my question is kind of related. It's how do you handle sexual harassment cases?
You mean when you are being sexually
No,
harassed,
sorry.
or where
Your
a member of staff
Yes.
is being sexually harassed by another member of staff?
Yes, something. Yeah.
Just
Okay,
shoot them.
I'm going to start.
That's all. This is a very simple case. Please.
So for outsource, there are certain things that we have zero tolerance for, and that's one of them. Honesty and integrity is one. That is one. So it's automatic dismissal. Once there's a case, we ascertain the case, we look at the case, and once it is established, it's a go.
Spot on, I agree. Let's move on because of time, right?
Okay.
Absolutely, 100%.
Got it? Okay. I need a male hand just so that
We
people
haven't
don't...
had any male questions.
I
though.
don't know. That's how they be
I
doing.
think they are
Oh, yeah, that
scared.
one at the back. There you go. They're afraid of us. Don't worry.
Hi. My question is, as things stand now, the world is moving into what they're calling basically the third industrial revolution, right? And for us, or the fourth, okay. And for us who are still kind of plugged into kind of the second industrial revolution in Africa, in terms of our infrastructure at least, how do you see, what do you think like the most viable opportunities are for young entrepreneurs looking to the future, at least like looking to the next 30 years, like where are the most viable opportunities?
So, I know that service sector, I was told, I read a research somewhere last week that by the year, I can't remember the year, but 80% of employment is going to be in the service sector. So I think if you're looking to be an entrepreneur, that is an area you should look at. Another area is technology, because the whole world when you look at Africa, there's a little bit of deficiency in that line. So if you're able to look at, you want to be an entrepreneur, you can look at IT and technology. Because of IT, I'm able to think I'm from northern Nigeria, born and brought up in Kano. I've never schooled outside Nigeria. I'm able to see the world and see what I could offer the world. So I think I would advise on technology.
I would just add to that by saying that for me, I've always seen Nigeria as the land of opportunity. So every time I see a challenge, for me, challenge equals opportunity. So it's saying, how can I take this particular thing that is missing in my society? How can I fix it? How can I add value? Then how can I monetize it? So every time you see a disadvantage, it's really about turning that disadvantage into advantage and finding opportunity and create opportunity within it. That's
Fantastic. Yes, over here. We've got 5 minutes.
My question is for Alma. As a Nigerian creative, we are constantly outsourcing. Outsourcing companies like Fiverr, Upwork, they always make us have to change ourselves. Like when with the team of Black Bodies Grey Matter, we always have to, for example, some people will tell you if you want to register on Fiverr, get someone in the US to open a PayPal account for you, do this. And I see that Outsource, your company, makes us, and you said that your employees have to speak American accents. What is wrong with, why is there emphasis on the American accent? Isn't that making us, how do I put it, go out of, make ourselves fit into being American, not being Nigerian.
Okay, so there's nothing wrong with speaking with Nigerian clients, right? But you have to look at the need of the client, the need and requirement of that client. So when their clients call them, they assume that the call center is in their centers, right? They assume that we are in America. So they call and say, oh, the weather in Boston is very, very cold today. So they actually, because of the market we're trying to reach out and the client's requirements, so we fit into that. There are some clients that would tell you, we really don't care about the accent. What we care about is be able to understand your own people. So people in medical records, we push them to that. We really don't want to change ourselves. We love being Nigerians and we love speaking the way we speak. But then we have to serve the clients according to their own needs. And that's one of their needs.
And I think one of the most important things about being a successful entrepreneur, especially if you're a woman, is to understand how to be adaptable. Absolutely. You have to be dynamic, 100%. You know? Should we take one last question? There's a man at the front. Okay, give him. Just like that. Make your question and only 8 words.
Well, that is so.
I don't expect you to give me an answer, but it's because it's hopefully something you want to see happen in the next 10 years, so to speak. If you were to give us an advice as men right now, what would it be?
Such an important question. If we could advise men, should we say young men? Yeah? What advice would you give to a young Nigerian or African man?
The first I would say is respect women. The second is, yes, be honest to yourself and to every interaction that you do. And then the third one is be responsible, period.
Be responsible.
You know.
I think we need to create something to help them. So honesty, that's H. I think when you say
Respect.
okay.
Responsibility.
Okay, respect. That's difficult. But no, let's call that honesty one. Let's call it integrity.
Okay.
Don't you think? I think it's actually
Honest-
integrity
so
that we're talking about.
honesty,
Let your yes be
integrity.
your yes.
So RIP.
Okay, so
Honesty.
Honesty.
Responsibility. No. RR. Honesty H. Integrity I. And then respect R.
okay, so let's say right. Wait.
No, here.
Her. We're really struggling.
Let's call
with
it
this
her.
here.
H-I-R, her.
Her. So men, say after me. Her. So on that note, I want to say a huge thank you to you both. It's been so much fun. So much fun listening to you and having this session.